Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. I am Tom Mills and today I'm joined by young Bruce Fitzpatrick.
Wow, I'm not normally introduced first, but yeah, hello.
The boy was texting, so I thought I'd catch him off guard.
Change
And
of
Sam
pace.
Williams.
Hello, how are we doing, boys?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, kind of looking forward to the PGA this week. A little bit of excitement on the British Isles as well with golf to talk about. But yeah, and obviously we dropped our iron fitting film yesterday, didn't we? So that's gone down well, it seems.
Yeah, it seems to have gone down well. Again, we've had the text, where's Tom? But I said just referred him back to last week's pod and said, just listen to it. But I think we'll talk about our irons a little bit later in the show, and we'll talk about, you know, what they did. There were some significant things they did with mine that I'd like to talk about that I think is going to improve my game. But let's dive into that in a bit. First of all, I think it would be remiss not to. In fact, Sam, you haven't dived in yet. We've not got any sponsors this week.
Yeah, I'm wrestling with this one in my head.
Oh,
The
okay.
unofficial, unofficial, I should say.
I'm going to put it out there and say that the halfway house at Belfry is probably the unofficial sponsor of the pod. I was particularly hungry at the turn on Sunday. And when the offer came up to buy a black coffee at £4.50, I just went straight in there, both barrels.
Solid price for some beans, some dissolvable beans.
I asked the guy if there was margin baked into that price. He wasn't 100% certain, but I was fairly confident there's margin on that.
It's amazing how much more expensive instant coffee is. It's just a couple of sort of stirs in the cup. It's far more expensive than the kind of usual ground stuff, or even, dare I say it, the stuff you get out of the Virtuo. It's nuts, really, isn't it? But
obviously we've covered Virtuo, who are really, I mean, they're bordering on an official partnership with the pod, really, with the amount we're getting through. But yeah, it was remarkable. The halfway house at the Belfry, to be fair, also served me a sausage roll that was, I mean, if you threw it at someone, you'd have knocked them out. It was ludicrous. It really sat heavy. It was a big old beast. But yeah.
So you weren't taken with a halfway house of the Brabazon.
No, it was good. It was solid. I mean, prices a little bit high.
So far, they've got prices that could bankrupt you and items that could kill you.
Yeah, but the sausage roll was good. Be under no illusions.
Okay.
It was just a little bit cumbersome for my liking, and I was mindful we were going to go live on Instagram straight after.
I was going to say, yeah, it's interesting because most people, when they get a bit nervous, a bit under pressure there, when they're faced with a treacherous risk and reward short par 4 over water and the prospect of a few hundred people watching on Instagram Live. I mean, a lot of people, I'm just thinking of Steve Elkington in particular here, would say, you know, they don't really have much of an appetite, but Sam is there just loading in on a 1.5 kilo sausage roll, just trying to just put as much behind his drive on 10 as he possibly could.
Well, I want to talk about this because I wasn't there. I had a prior engagement, so I wasn't able to attend. And we'll talk about the Belfry and you guys playing it on the Sunday, which is the day after the final day. For some reason, they finished on a Saturday. We'll talk about that shortly. But I tuned into the Instagram Live. You know, I saw 4 dudes taking on the 10th. I saw 4 dudes trying to take on the 10th, but there was an alarming lack of clarity about who hit the green, who didn't, and who made eagle / birdie, and who didn't.
Well,
yeah,
just take it up with the head of social media.
That's easily explained now. I mean, Sam just found the water, and as a result, didn't see any value in going any further with covering the rest of the hole. I think would be the simplest explanation there. But no, we can definitely dive into that. And I guess, yeah, while we're on the topic, shout out to Chase, 2 MCs on Instagram, and Ben, our partners on the day, for just a very, very enjoyable round. And yeah, it's good fun. We had a good close match, didn't we? It was awesome I mean, that's the first time I've played a course the day after it's had a tour event. And needless to say, it was in great condition. And yeah, a good time was had by all, wasn't it, Sam?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, should we talk maybe chronologically and cover off the Richard Bland win?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, what was the take on the event? I mean, Richard Bland winning at that age. in the playoff, the condition. I thought it was a pretty remarkable performance, to be fair, on that final day.
Yeah.
I think drama wise, it was absolutely what it was required. I was down in Devon with some family, and I was watching on my phone on the Sky Go app. Shout out to Sky Go, official, unofficial. And I was watching, Bland with that what could only be 30 odd footer across the green for birdie on the 72nd hole. And what a putt. I mean, the emotion between him and Tim Barter, which I wasn't aware a huge amount about Richard Bland.
I didn't know that.
But Tim Barter does coaching. I didn't know that. He's of all the flack that we give Sky Golf and the commentary, I think Richard Bland, I think Tim Barter is incredibly well informed. I do think he's knowledgeable. He hits the point pretty well. But the emotion between those two when he was doing his interview afterwards, and at that point, Miliozzi still looked like, I mean, he had it in his hands. Like, he threw that away categorically.
Yeah, he choked on birdie, didn't he? Down 17 from memory.
I think
he did make a good
much.
Okay,
I think that's a bit of hyperbole.
It was a 3 jab, wasn't it?
Yeah, on in 2 for the par 5, and then 3 jabbed it.
Yeah, it was like 50 feet away though.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
but
it's in his hands, isn't it? You'd expect a pro, especially when in the business end of a tournament, to take that sort of chance. And he did miss an 8-footer for birdie. So
yeah, what's the average make though from there? It's 80. Yeah,
well,
50%.
Let's not go down some bloody Mark Brody vortex here. He's 50 feet away. He's on the green in 2. No one likes making 3-putt pars on the 71st hole of a tournament when you're in contention, do they?
When you joint lead at the time.
Yeah, but then equally, like, he's made an unbelievable par up 18. So I think, look, I mean, just looking at the event kind of in overview, I thought it was going in. I maybe wasn't quite sure as to how successful it was going to be. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about how, Bob Mack, I think you're going to probably pull me up on this here, Tom, but I think he's 45th in the world. He was the highest ranked player there, and a few people choosing not to come back over to play in it because of the PGA this coming week. Matt Wallace being an interesting one there. I don't know if anyone's got the inside scoop on him, but he's literally sponsored by the Belfry, and he didn't come back over to play in it. So I think going in, it was like, oh, how's this event going to fare? But I mean, Saturday and Sunday in particular, like, absolutely stacked leaderboards, some brilliant storylines. Bob Mack was playing well. Obviously, looked like he could have maybe got into the final group. But the way it panned out on Saturday, it was such a stacked leaderboard. You had Eduardo Molinari making a bit of a comeback as well with a really, really low round, and also probably one of the best lines in professional golf as of late, when he said, yeah, if I'd have had a 10 handicap as putting, I'd be leading this tournament comfortably. Or something, or words to that effect. Of course, yeah, then you got like Dean Burmester. He's been playing really well recently and is playing at Kiawah this week. So, he decided to play in that, which I thought was great. And he was in the mix heading into the back 9 on Sunday. And then Eddie Pepperell as well, who he's a kind of a favourite of the pod, isn't he, really? We do like Eddie's character and the stuff he says on Twitter. And he looked like he was in a really strong position, but threw it away. And then to have, Richard Bland as the kind of ultimate story out of all of those, coming and winning it in his 478th start, I thought, yeah, hats off to the Belfry, because it was, and the European Tour, because it was a cracking event.
It's strange, isn't it, how some tournaments, and it doesn't really relate to who's in it, but some tournaments just resonate with entertainment, and you can't really put your finger on it. Like the AT&T, I just could not get on board with it. I just tried to watch the Byron Nelson. I was just wasn't gripping me. When they're 20 under par after 2 rounds, it's like, yeah. No, I'm not really into this. Even though the score shouldn't matter, but just not interested. And the Belfry this week at the Betfred British Masters was one of those that really did. I was glued to the phone. Well, it was pretty great company for the family, to be fair. But glued to the phone watching that coverage is very good.
Yeah. I mean, just that final round, Blando. When you think what? Just recap this. I think he's 48. He's never won a full European Tour event, has he? I think his best was winning the Challenge Tour Finals or something, going back like
he's had a
20
couple of tied
years.
Seconds.
And you just got to think like where he's at in his career. you've got to think what that means. Like, that's a hell of an accomplishment. He must be like taking on water when it comes to distance against the field. He must be losing, I'm guessing, something like 30, 40 yards off the tee. Now, obviously, a bit of a segue into the fact we played it the next day. You've got to have some long game for that.
Do you want to be corrected? Driving distance 286 average, which is a 298 is tour average, so 12 yards, but still below the tour average. He's 150.
Yeah, that's not as much as maybe I'm being a bit harsh there.
But again, it's not entirely clear because, where they measure driving distance is it kind of affects that stat fairly heavily. And obviously there are a lot of guys who can hit 3-wood. And the fact he didn't hit his best drive and was still short of that bunker on 18, whereas someone like, Migliozzi, who's a bigger hitter, was kind of flirting with the bush over the bunker, probably gives you an insight into, the distance he's sacrificing. But to play such a precise round of golf, shoot 66, I've got to be honest, like when he's canned that putt, on the 72nd hole in regulation, effectively, I thought, wow, like that's incredible. I don't know if it's going to be enough to get it done, but he just seems so emotional for putting himself in the best position possible. I thought going into the playoff, he was going to struggle to close it out, particularly when he's found that horrendous lie through the fairway, just short of the bunker, and he's like taking the hat off, the head's sort of in the hands. You're like, yeah, this guy has to be cooked, surely. Has to be. But then goes on and wins it, and you're just like, what? That is an unbelievable tactical bottom groove 5-wood, like deliberately to get it over the water there, and just playing for that sort of ball flight was pretty cool to watch. So yeah, what an awesome story.
I could have done that. The only shot I've got is a bottom groove 5-wood. I can't find any other part of the face. Do you think an interesting point that we could discuss is, like you said, I was watching Migliozzi on the charge, and I think I could be corrected. He birdied 15 and 16 on the bounce. So he's got this par 5 17th coming up, and I'm watching him charge. He's 13 under, still on the 17th tee, and Bland has got this, monster across the green for birdie. If I was like you, and I'm sure perhaps Bland was, and he thought, well, this probably isn't going to be enough, but let's get it to the hole. If he was in a position where that putt is, categorically going to win you it, does it go in?
Crystal ball stuff.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you never know, do you? He certainly didn't look like he was going to charge his putt on the first playoff hole. And actually, I think, you talk about Migliozzi choking, which I don't think is a fair assessment.
I don't think he choked, but I think it was in his hand.
Putt, his first putt in regulation was pretty nuts, I thought. On the first playoff hole, that first putt charging that like 6 or 8 feet by was like, that's pretty strange. But then again, maybe he was just going for it. Like he's charged the putt on 17, he's charged the putt there. It's probably just that's part of his character. That's how he plays golf. So
well, it's like I always get these places. Is it Chambers Bay where DJ?
And 3 putt from 12 feet.
Yeah, and he said, "I'm not going to leave it short because it's to win the Open. I'm not going to leave it short." And it's probably the same thing. If you've got a putt to win, I think you've got to think about holing it, haven't you? And if it's 8 feet past, you've got to back yourself to put it in. You're a pro golfer. Perhaps that's what he was thinking.
Yeah.
So we then kind of go out and tee it up the next morning, and watching the coverage on Saturday, I thought this place looked. I was toying with the golf shoes, but went with the waders in the end. I was expecting it to be absolutely sodden. I thought we were going to be like playing out the Somme. It was actually in really good condition, wasn't it? Like I was genuinely really impressed considering the water they'd had. We live, like 20, 30 minutes away from the Belfry. So, the amount of rainfall we'd had over the last few days, I was expecting the place to be absolutely sodden. And granted, there's absolutely no run on the ball there whatsoever.
It's all carries now. Yeah.
But it was lush. And that was, I thought it was a really cool insight, like you said, Bruce, into what it's like, how they set it up for the professionals. I've never experienced that before and thought, right, this is what they deal with now, day in, day out, and playing right off the back tees at, 7,300 or something like that.
You've played it before,
cool
so what was your kind of comparison there? Because I'd not played it before. That was my first time seeing the Belfry. But from your perspective, Sam, how did that because you'd probably prep me for it slightly going in, just being like, oh yeah, it's got a few good holes, but
yeah, I remember it being
take on
fairly benign. Like the rough was nowhere near as penal. The greens were brilliant when I played it last time. To be fair, it's known for being in very good condition, which I suppose having 50 greenkeepers, whatever, that'll get it done, won't it? It was the surrounds of the green, so I don't remember it being anywhere near as penal around the greens. Obviously, there's still a lot of water in play, but when we played it on Sunday, if you took on a pin and you missed it 3 yards on the wrong side, you had absolutely no hope. You were looking for a ball for a minute or two.
Really?
Yeah, that was remarkable,
you're chopping
wasn't it?
out. It was so hard, and I don't think you just don't get a fair take on how tough it is from those kind of lies around the green when there's no spin and the greens are hard and they're really fast. You can only then start to imagine what it's like when you go to wing foot and you turn all of those kind of different dynamics up by another 10, probably 20-30% again.
Yeah, because you couldn't really run a ball through the fairway at the Belfry on Sunday, could you? It's kind of like you were backspinning drivers, I think, on occasion, and that was interesting because at 7,300 yards, I thought going in, it's going to be a wet course. There's not going to be any run on the ball. It's going to feel really long, but it actually didn't. I think the par fives felt like they're on the long side, particularly with how narrow the fairways were. You couldn't really get a wood on it if you're out the rough on the par fives. But some of the par fours, it was interesting because I think, is it the sixth hole with water both sides there?
Yeah.
That's like a 440-yard par four. And we've stood on the tee and I was like, wow, there's a load of divots here. Like there's a lot of people hitting iron. This is a 440-yard hole. How does that really work? And when you get down there, you see why, because there's just not really anywhere to miss driver. I mean, you absolutely threaded the needle with a driver there, and then hit a great iron in. But I can see why a lot of pros probably hitting like a 2 or a 3 iron and then hitting a 4 iron in, just because it's a much, much wider landing spot you've got for your tee shot. So there's definitely like I didn't hit as many drives as I thought I was going to. I thought going to the Belfry, for all the stick that I've heard people give it, I'm literally just going to pull the head cover off driver. I'm just going to leave it there for the rest of the round. And that wasn't really the case. Like,
what was your take on it? First time going in? Like, I mean, let's preface this with, we've given the Belfry, quote unquote, and by extension, I think a lot of Ryder Cup venues, a really bad rap on this pod for pretty much since its inception. I think it's fair to say it's not a brand of golf that we play a lot of. What's your honest take coming away from that, from your first experience?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd hold my hand up and say I've been someone who's bagged it in the past, having not played it, which is a terrible, terrible way to be, really. It's just not a good character trait, is it? No, I've been there for like, the odd custom fit and, been on the range with the sort of threadbare range mats and the balls that are massively overpriced and, rock hard. And as a result, I just kind of extrapolated that view onto the golf course. But yeah, as you say, like the course was in great nick. Like there was actually a fair amount of strategy in there. I think there's plenty of really, really good fun holes to play, like 10, 18 is just a really demanding tee shot. And a brutal closing hole, but I don't think that's a bad. Like, I don't mind playing really hard golf courses. Like, call me sadistic, call me a bit of a sicko. I just quite enjoy it because I'm like, I wonder how, my game's going to stack up around a place like this, and I enjoy going and looking at courses like that. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of water. The rough was really thick around the greens. The greens were pretty quick, but we had a really enjoyable match, didn't we, with Chase and Ben? And
it was great fun. Great fun. What's your take on it, Bills?
Yeah, I've played it a couple of times. I'm just not good enough. So the short and long of it is, if I'm going to play there, it's not going to be in a stroke play event or in a stroke play format. And we've talked about this on this pod before. Penal golf, you can be sadistic like Bruce and think, okay, let's put my skills to the test and see where I walk away with. But reality is that not everyone is a scratch golfer. And I think even if you're anything other than a 4 or 5 handicap or above, I think you need to be going to somewhere like the Belfry or Paris National or Glen Eagles, whatever. These courses aren't designed to go around and plot a score together for 4 days. That's what they put, they put the guys on to do this week, but that's not what they're designed for. They're designed for match play. And in that case, it's a really enjoyable course because it does give you the opportunity to tank one down there on 6, because that's a silly shot, really, because the the fairway becomes uber tight when you get down there 280, 290. It gives you a much more rewarding approach in. But the prudent play would be lay back. It's a proper match play decision. Do I iron off the tee and take a 4-iron in and guarantee my par? And again, 10, you can take it on. And for that reason, it's a good golf course. It's a good golf course in terms of if you are going there with the aim of playing match play. I wouldn't enjoy a stroke play around there. I don't think.
I mean,
yeah.
For my 2 penneth on it, yeah. I wouldn't want to play it every day. That's obvious. And
I'd agree with that.
There are some fairly forgettable golf holes, but there are some really good ones. And for what it is, which is a tournament course designed for match play, lends itself to things like the Ryder Cup really well. In that sense, there are a lot of things going for it. I think where the Belfry has almost become the sort of totemic course that people who enjoy golden age architecture and widths and angles, and we can all take aim at. But actually, I think that the reason for that is probably not the course. If I'm being frank, I think the issue is it's enormous, kind of money machine sponsoring Matt Wallace. Matt Wallace can't get over for the event, whatever. It's an enormous money machine that takes a lot of cash out of the traveling golfer. And I think there's probably more of a frustration on the part of the people who hate it because they want to see those people go and indulge themselves with golf that we would think is more enjoyable because it's kind of the history and there's it's more playable and strategic in its nature. And I think that's why the Belfry kind of gets a bad rap. In isolation, it is not a dreadful parkland course. You can't say it's a really bad place. It is in fantastic condition. And to be fair, there are some great holes that I thought were well thought through. Holes like 16. The really odd thing when you go there, it's such a random place with such an odd assortment of people. Even the next day, it's just
nuts,
like,
wasn't it?
It's not like it's one demographic of really bizarre people. It's like you've
melting
heard it
pot, isn't it? Yeah,
it's like a melting pot of the bewildered and golf aficionados side by side, all looking very confused by the whole thing.
And non-golfers as well. I think
it's the most
we had a quick
bizarre
bite to eat. Yeah, we had a quick bite to eat after in that kind of outdoor tent area, which was done pretty well. And there's people there you literally have never played golf. Like you can kind of tell they're not golfers, but they're attracted to the Belfry because of, I guess it's got a wider reputation of just being a big sort of corporate hospitality experience. Some of the sites out there, like I've not seen such a high number of mid-teen handicap golfers pushing tour bags around on electric trolleys before on the Brabazon. I mean, Tom, honestly, if you'd come and joined us, you would have had to get the Trilby tour bag out just to blend in, I think, with what we were seeing out on the court.
But for those of you who have not visited the Belfry, like an idea of as you drive through, you've got like a 2,000 bay driving range to your right, like the largest driving range you have ever seen. There are 2 courses there which are fantastically forgettable, the Derby and the PGA, which are they kind
PGA's
of venture
okay.
off.
In fairness, I wouldn't walk my dog around the Derby, but the PGA's okay.
And then you've got loads of corporate spacing that you can hire for events. You can do weddings there. And it's just all, and then, if you're in the market, there's Cougar City, the nightclub, which is the Bel Air. It's got a nightclub on site. It's the complete antithesis of say, a
Royal Dornock that we played 2 weeks ago.
or a Rye, or, it's just another world. But it's an enormous market in the golfing industry. Like there are so many golfers that don't dig Dornock or Rye, or Rye or Nairn or some of these places, and they'd much prefer to go to the Celtic Manor and spend a weekend there, get pissed. It's like that's a huge.
I think that's a bit harsh. I think it's a bit harsh.
There is
I think
a
there's
huge
a bit to
market
be
for
said
that,
for. There's a lot to be said for being able to stay on site, have a good time, and to be fair, like I'll say it again. Brabazon's a good golf course. It's good fun.
Yeah.
Just go into it with your eyes open. Like I wouldn't want to say like, kind of be too dismissive of people that go and enjoy it, because I actually think, a lot of people would really enjoy playing it, and it's hard not to. There's a lot of history there. there is some really good golf holes, and there is a lot to be said for being on site and having those things. It just makes things a little bit easier, and it's a good place it's an easy place to get to. It's just go into it with your eyes open. It is blisteringly difficult golf course for the long game. So if you're slotting drive 280 on repeat up the gut, you're going to probably put yourself in a good position. You've then got to hit the greens. If you can do all that, and you're not someone
and
who's
you're not on tour, and if for some random reason you're not already on tour, maybe if you've got
Eduardo Molinari's putting game, then you're probably going to have a great time there, which is probably why he enjoyed it this week. But yeah, like high handicappers, you're just going to lose a shitload of golf balls, and it's just not going to be that enjoyable. And I think that's the fairest assessment. I definitely wouldn't take complete dead aim at the Belfry or anyone who goes and spends money there, because there's a place for it, and it's good fun, and it's an enjoyable place to go, and they're clearly a successful business. But the outpouring of resentment you see, I think, is more an indication of the fact that people just want to see people go off to the shores, go and play the Rise and the Deals and the Dornocks and the Formbies.
Pure form of the game. Which, look, I mean, we've said it many times, haven't we? And I sound like a broken record, but the great thing about golf is that it's a sport that really caters to so many different viewpoints, abilities. There's so many different experiences out there, and Belfry somewhere I'd definitely love to play there again, but it's not, as you say, it's not somewhere you'd want to play every day, and it's a big tournament venue, and as you say, going with your eyes open. Couldn't have put it better.
That's looking
forward.
Penal golf course to another penal golf course. We've got the PGA coming up at Kiawah. Kiawah, just for those of you that are interested in this sort of thing, when you look at slope and course rating, which are essentially the two indicators of how hard the course is. The course rating, how hard it is for the scratch player. The slope is a differential between the scratch player and the bogey player. Kiawah has the highest course rating in the United States at 79.1 off the championship tees. It is the hardest player for the scratch.
No way.
For the scratch player.
Really? Really?
Yeah, Beth Page has got like something like the highest slope, hasn't it? But that's interesting in terms of how the two things work.
The slope is 155, so it's tough for a bogey golfer as well. Yeah. So the slope is 155.
Whereas
so
this is just out and out hard.
Yeah, it's rock hard.
See, I seem to remember it being generous, like fairly generous in places off the tee, because it's kind of a links, like the Winders play. Yeah, and this is going to sound shocking. I played it 5 years ago, and I don't know whether there is obviously jet lag thrown in there, and if you're playing it really early and you're jet lagged, and days just kind of blend together, and I don't think your memory's too hot in those kind of circumstances. So I can't actually remember loads of the course. But I seem to remember it was fairly generous off some of the tees, but there is a lot of wind. Like, the wind is a huge factor there. It's essentially a links course, I guess, to, borrow some of the UK probably terminology. But yeah, I'm surprised it's that highly rated in terms of difficulty.
7 sets of tees. So there's championship, tournament, Ocean, Dye, Kiawah, Governors, and California. So you can play it from 5,003 up to 7,009, essentially.
I like the sound of the Governors. I quite like the sound of the Governors to me.
The Governors is
right my wheelhouse.
You can do that. Yeah.
Played at sort of Cullen length. That would be a treat, wouldn't it? Let's get in with the headline. What are we at? Longest tournament course ever, longest major course ever put into championship, where it can go back to 7,800, can't it? But they reckon they're not going to do that.
7,876. It's a brute.
Yeah, that's long.
I mean, at that point, surely you're just getting into 250-yard par threes to start make up some of the distance. I imagine. I mean, Mills, you're the stato here, but if you're looking at that scorecard there, to stretch it out to 7-8, you surely must be getting par threes that are
the longest par three is 197.
Really? What, even off the back tees?
No. I've just looked at it off the Governors. Sorry. I was still working Governors. Off the back tee.
Oh my God. Yeah.
223, 238, 198, and 207. So yeah, they're all 238 is the longest.
They're all over. That's a joke, isn't it?
90% of golfers are hitting wood on every single one of those. These boys are probably not going to take a head cover off on them.
So it's a long course. It's a big course.
But it does.
And that reflects in the favourite. Who do you think the favourite is this week? I mean,
Rory, isn't it?
yeah, it is Rory. 11-1. I mean,
I think that's punchy. I think that's
I
pretty
think
punchy.
so. I wouldn't put money on Rory. 11-1.
I think it's back to the Michael Verity thing, though, isn't it? You know, does gambling odds represent the person who's most likely to win, or does it represent the person who's most likely to get backed, and therefore you can go short on them? I mean, I don't know. We kind of come into these things hideously unprepared to start saying who we fancy for things. So, I mean, I'll probably swerve.
Well, it doesn't stop us, though, does it?
Try and maintain some integrity of the jar.
It never really stops us.
But you've got to think. I mean, like, you know, do the syndicate stuff with a few guys every major tournament where you pick basically the 10 players that you fancy that week, and it's basically a list of 10 players that you think will make the cut. And you've got to be going for people who are top 30, top 40 drivers, you would think, wouldn't you? And people who've got pretty meaty approach.
You need to be long, though.
Stats.
You do need to be long. Otherwise,
I don't think Zach Johnson's kind of particularly hopeful, is he, at the moment?
Yeah, Zach Johnson, Kevin Kisner. I really hate to say it. I think they're going to struggle if they're stretching the course out to those kind of unconscionable lengths. McIlroy, like, I don't think he actually drove it that well at the Wells Fargo, which is a surprising kind of stat that gets overlooked here when people are picking him to win. I mean, obviously he's won round Kiawah before, which is it's huge. I mean, that's massive, isn't it? That level of confidence must be hugely motivating in his position, but he's going to have to drive the ball better, you would think, than he did at Quail Hollow if he's going to have a chance, because that was statistically one of his best putting performances ever at a tournament, and it was enough to win by one, wasn't it? So yeah, he doesn't need to play his best, I think, to win this week, but he's got to probably step into a higher gear than he was at the Quail Hollow for the Wells Fargo.
Yeah, it's a tough one to call, isn't it? I mean, he's got previous, which is useful. He's won by 8 shots, so in a major. So he obviously likes the course, suits his eye, but he's a different player now, isn't he? You know, like you say, he's a huge fader of the ball, the right to left fade. He's a different player than he was. He's a different player than he was, you know, last time he won there. So, who are you backing, Sam?
No,
Come on,
I haven't got a clue with this one. You've got to be looking in sort of fairly big hitter territory. I kind of probably go with something like a Justin Thomas, maybe. Probably be
good shout.
Reasonable back. I mean, I think there's a lot of intrigue around the greens. None of these guys are going to hit all the greens, are they? And he's a fabulous chipper of the ball. He's got all aspects of the game. I kind of feel like he's gone a little bit quiet recently. He's probably ripe for a pretty big. It just feels like a time where maybe Justin Thomas could kind of get back into the sort of major wins. I don't know, but I mean, in terms of looking further down the rankings, haven't got a clue, to be honest. One thing that it will be interesting, this is the only event, I believe, where rangefinders are going to be in issue. So the PGA obviously signed them off for tournament play, and the only event they host is the US PGA. So that's going to be pretty cool to see. Like, do they use them? Is there any benefit? Does it actually speed up pace of play? I'm not sure what this is going to achieve, but it'll be pretty. I'm sure it'll get plenty of airtime.
Do you happen to know what I'm assuming the answer is no, what the restrictions are? So is it lasers? Is it GPS? Is it both? Do you know how any of that's going to work?
Distance measuring devices. Oh, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they'll have the slope function turned off.
Yeah, slope and wind and temperature calculations aren't permitted. DeChambeau's asked that months in advance probably, and he's just been rebuffed. Yeah, it will be funny, won't it? I guess, yeah, look a bit.
I don't think it'll speed up play in the slightest. If anything, I think it'll probably slow it down a smidge because they've never done it before.
Really?
But, well, like when we spoke to Eric Van Rooyen, and he was like, the conversations aren't about the distance. The conversations are about, you know, whether you go hard on a 7 or easy on a 6. That's the distance bit's done pretty quickly.
But I think they will. Yeah, they're still going to have to calculate like how far on is the pin. So they'll have a pin sheet and it'll be like, right, okay, so we know the pin is 163 and that's cut 8 yards on for example. So they'll probably be able to arrive at the number they want to land it at a bit more quickly or a bit quicker than they've previously done, where they're having to, I guess, calculate what the what would be the normal way of doing it, pacing it off a sprinkler or pacing it off some kind of defined feature in the fairway, then adding on the number of adding on from the pin sheet number to get where the pin is. That's all kind of taken care of. They just have to use pin sheet and laser. So maybe it will speed things up. But I think returning back to the potential picks, I mean, I was just, doing the highly unprofessional thing of checking a few stats out on my phone, just because I feel like I need to do that if I'm going to be able to spar with you, Mills, on potential picks here. But McIlroy's driving accuracy at Wells Fargo was 20%, I think. Really not looking great. Hovland had a good showing, putted really well, didn't hit many greens. I think Victor could be in a pretty good spot, actually. It just seems like he's got a breakthrough on a bigger event.
Yeah, the problem with Hovland, the only problem I would say about Hovland is when you put the course long, he's going to miss greens, because that's what length does. And the where he falls down is his chipping. And he needs to be on fire with his chipping. If he can hit all the greens, Hovland is going to be a great shot. But his chipping is, compared to where these big boys are. So I like the shot, though. I like Hovland.
There's people like Keith Mitchell who'll be quite sensible each way bets, I'd assume, because again, you're going to get pretty good odds. A big hitter, he's got form, he's taking in. You've got people like Scotty Scheffler that I think again,
he hits it straight.
Pound the ball.
But Scheffler hits it straight. Yeah. That's the thing about him. He's like he's averaging about 70% of his fairway, so he's a little bit longer than average, not much, but he picks up loads of strokes gained on the basis of how straight he hits it. I think an interesting one's Matt Wallace, because he's obviously moved over to the US full time by the looks of things, has hit the ball really well over his last few tournaments. Had a chance in Texas when Spieth won, was in the mix at Quail Hollow. He's just putting, he's putting like, Eduardo Molinari and the 10 handicapper at the Belfry, like losing a couple of strokes around by the looks of things with the putter. So whether he's able to turn that around, added to which he's going to have to do it on a bigger stage than he's been used to. Could be a little dark horse, though, I think, for this week.
One thing I wanted to get your take on is someone who's not playing, Matthew Wolff.
Yeah.
Can we just spend a few minutes on this? Because
I want to do my takes in a bit, but we'll go.
You want to get through your
I'll
picks?
Do my picks in a bit, but we'll talk.
I thought you'd already kind of started on that. Sorry. Oh, no. Do you want to do your picks? And then I just think Matthew Wolff's kind of got to be covered.
Let's talk about Matt Wolff. And then I'll come in with my dials.
Where do we go with this, boys? So I think multiple disqualifications, multiple withdrawals, season's just like going completely down the pan.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the issue is, but he's withdrawn, I think, from the event without any reason given. Is that right?
No.
I haven't followed it that closely. So it seems wide open for conjecture. Who's going to have a run at it?
What do you want us to say? We can't speculate on this, can we? It's just weird. It is weird that you would withdraw from a major and not give a reason.
There's a fairly interesting article, or not, I shouldn't say interesting, but I think a sensible, reasonable article, it wasn't pure conjecture, but it was just sort of saying that, was it the WGC at concession? That was probably some of the early signs that he was finding the adjustment to life on tour tough, really. And that, he's known for being quite a gregarious, sociable person, and probably just going through that period where you're on tour, traveling from week to week, haven't really got a kind of base of support or people around you, close friends that he'd have had when he was at uni, and maybe just finding that quite tough. I mean, I know that seems like a bit of a weak answer.
That can't be to pull out of a major, though, would it? So everything would go bar the 4 majors you'd expect. So that's fair. Maybe that is the case. The schedule's not mapping out for me how I want it. Surely you wouldn't then go, I'm just going to drop, major championship. Maybe he just needs a reset, though. Maybe the guy just needs a complete reset because, he got DQ'd at the Masters. Do we even know what that was about? Was that sign of the wrong score? Wrong score, wasn't it?
Score,
yeah.
And then he got DQ'd on another one, didn't he? Was that the one where his mum notified them or something.
No. That was Hovland. He got penalised at the players for his mum calling in and saying he took the wrong drop. But he didn't get DQ'd. Yeah. No, it's all right. I, as I say, I'm the head of audit in detail here at the Jar, so it is my job. Maybe he's just not in a good headspace with it. Like his swing is not as good as it was last year. There's definitely been a few subtle changes there, but I guess a lot of these people would take the view, and a lot of people might think it's arrogant, but I think the young stars would say, if I don't feel like I can win, there's just no point me turning up. And maybe that's just the opinion he's taken. He's like, I literally don't want to play golf right now. I've not placed in any of the tournaments I've really played this year. I mean, has he even cracked the top 10 or top 20 this year? I'm not actually sure he has.
Ago that he was like leading the US Open.
US Open, yeah.
So I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna speculate, but it all seems very, very weird.
Very strange indeed. Yeah.
His last good performance was the US Open, wasn't it?
So, considering you think his swing has got a bit dodge, Bruce, are you going to get rid of that weird hooky outside wolf backswing you've got going on?
Hasn't it? I've noticed it's gone.
It's gone a little bit, yeah. I mean, it was more just a little bit of an adjustment. No, it's just sometimes you have to exaggerate things, I think, to feel them in the swing. And it's something that I got a little bit extreme with. I mean, looking at the TaylorMade fitting videos now, I'm like, that is absolutely... Well, it's not terrible. It's just, it is a bit extreme on the backswing. Downswing's fine, but sometimes I'm a firm believer that you have to exaggerate things and tinker with stuff a little bit if you want to feel an improvement. Swing feels all right at the moment.
Sam's a firm believer in exaggerating things, but just not in the swing, just in life.
Just anything on the pod, we'll just exaggerate. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, young man. Now, your picks.
Let's wrap this all up. My picks. I'm going to go for two. I'm going to go one for a sort of mid pick, and one long shot. I really fancy Tony Finau. I think he's long enough. I think he's sneaky long. I think he's good around the greens. I fancy Tony Finau this week, 40-1.
I know you're big in Tony's camp, aren't you? So that doesn't surprise me at all.
The other one is my long shot, because he had a good week at the Belfry, major winner. Host of the Belfry, Danny Willett, 300-1.
I think that's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard.
I
think that's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard.
He was. What did he finish in the Belfry? He was in the top. He sort of finished 900, didn't he? So he was not far off.
I don't think the strength of field is quite comparable with Kiawah Island, I'm afraid.
I would put money on each way, Danny Willett.
He has. I mean, look, I'm trying to find some truth in what you're saying, and he's brought a little bit of form back, hasn't he? It's only the last few years you've seen him more competitive, whereas after the Masters, he was off the planet, wasn't he? Let's face it.
I don't think it's a bad shout.
I don't know how many people are in the field. What, 130 plus people playing?
It's 100 and a lot in the PGA, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's 100 and a lot more people I'd be backing ahead of Danny Willett. But that was, I like it. I like the bravery. I like the fact you wouldn't stake the reputation of the Jar on probably one of the, a 300-1 outsider to go. And
there's a lot worse. You could go with.
Yeah, I suppose like
Sonny Skinner. Sonny Skinner's 4,000-1. You could try that.
Yeah, I think we're way down the pecking order. This has got to be an established player.
Someone's going to pick Patrick Rada because they think it says Patrick Reed at 4,000-1. It's like, I've got to steal Patrick Reed at 4,000-1. Patrick Rada, no. Tying things up because we're getting on a bit on this podcast.
Oh, you don't want to hear my picks? Fair, no, that's all right. I'm the junior member of the team.
Well, go on, let's do yours. Let's do yours then.
I've got a couple of interesting ones, and it's always a bit of a fool's endeavor, isn't it? But I think Sung Jae Im could actually have quite a good performance. I know he's renowned for being a bit of a cash machine and just playing week to week. It seems that he's taken the past week off. He had a good start at the Wells Fargo, then shot like 82 in the second round, and I think that was a bit of a theme looking at some of his earlier tournaments this year. Like, he's had good opening couple of rounds and then just maybe got a bit of fatigue on the weekend. So I'm thinking if he's had a rest and he's coming in fresh, Sung Jae is just an absolute ball striker, isn't he? Like, hits so many greens, hits it pretty straight. okay around the greens, pretty decent putter. I think he could be a really, really hot favourite. Or not hot favourite, but just a good pick who maybe flies a little bit under the radar. And then Abraham Answer, I think, has to be due a big one after that performance at the Wells Fargo. Yeah, I think he's another one who looks pretty good. So there you go. Those are my picks.
I'm going to stand by mine. Justin Thomas. And I'm going to put Scotty Scheffler in there. Yeah, and I'm going to put Scotty Scheffler in there. I think that's probably where my head's at. To be interesting. Any other kind of quick tidbits before we close with?
Yeah, I got a little bit of thing that popped up on my Twitter feed. Did you hear this week that the US Open are giving Mickelson an exemption?
Really? No, I didn't know that.
And they do? Do they do that?
Yeah,
that is interesting.
They are giving him. Christ, I hope this is right. I believe I screenshot it.
Do you know who the other six were?
Yeah, I can read them off my list. There's Tom Watson, Vijay Singh, Retief Goosen, Ernie Els twice, and Jim Furyk.
Those are not the names you'd expect, are they?
That's since 2010, the people to receive special exemption. Hale Irwin has also had one in the past, and he was the only person that's had a special exemption and got on to win.
Okay.
But it's odd. I mean, I don't know where I stand on it because they're giving him a special exemption, obviously, because he's the US Open away from a Grand Slam. But beyond that, why does he deserve it? Maybe it goes back to the thing we talked about before with, like, you know, the what's it called? The player pop profile, the player
impact program.
Program. Yeah. You know, maybe it's the fact that they think that by having Phil there, he might drive some more revenue through, but it's tough.
It's his hometown, isn't it? I mean, it is his hometown where it's where he grew up. And look, I mean, the story of 5 second places at the US Open, something like that.
Written in the stars. You've heard it here first. Bruce is calling it.
Yeah, I don't
60 black coffees in the US Open.
Yeah. And a few carve raises beforehand. He's just going to go out. I mean, he's doing Darren Clark 2011 at Royal St George's.
Can I set ourselves some homework then ahead of the USPGA? This is the event where the club professionals in the States get to tee it up and play in it, I think, through qualification process. Be cool if we picked a club pro, see who prevails.
Top club pro.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
you're literally just picking a name out of it. Oh, you mean going away? Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to go away and have a little look at who's the best club pro.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a little internal thing. We'll stick that up on the story and we'll see who prevails. Probably none of us.
Sounds good.
Are you backing? Just a quick one to round things off from this week's podcast. If you haven't seen it already, please do check out the iron fitting brought to you by TaylorMade that we released on Monday, which was quite nice. It was good to see Sam's inner dilemma between the guy telling him that he should be in 770s.
We're going to talk about this, haven't we?
He should be in blades.
Was I right to do it? Okay, so let me take me out of it.
Hang on.
Was I right to say, come on, can I not get the MCs? Is that beyond me? Is it a level above my ball striking? Would the 770s have been the iron? I mean, look, I'll take you.
Well, you've got them in your hand now. How are you hitting them? That's the key.
Okay, all right. Hang on. Well, I'm just saying that a little birdie did tell me that when we were playing Castle Stewart a couple of weeks ago, and we got to the first hole, and it's cold and a little windy and puffing into, and it's very, very sort of gentle upslope there that you're playing into at the first at Castle Stewart. And Sam, picks an 8 iron, hits it. What he seems to be fairly happy with it. I think he hit it okay, and it comes up sort of 15 yards short of the green. And straight away we were into. Do you think I picked the wrong irons, Bruce? Do you think I've just bitten off more than I could chew? Do you think? Do you think I should have just got 770 throughout the bag? Is it just too much ego there? Is it just too much ego?
Tricky. I mean, you always want the best in heads, don't you? Let's face it. You never want to be the guy with. You never want the chunky.
Hang on.
Game
this
improvement
has nothing
jobs.
to do with the head. It's something to do with the fact you can pull it out of your bag and say to whoever you're playing with, "See these blades? These are I play with blades. That's what I do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all it is.
But we've all come away with pretty sleek looking irons, haven't we? I mean, TaylorMade do make some very aesthetically pleasing irons, I'd say. But we have a bit of a chuckle, don't we, in that fitting video? Danny was very good at sort of indulging various questions we had and little us asking about whether we were good ball strikers and whatnot. So no, I think it's a pretty fun video, isn't it? It shows the fitting process in an informative and just kind of light way, really.
What is strange is I'm now going to be the guy who hits his 7-iron the furthest of all of us, which makes
by a country
no
mile.
sense whatsoever. Because I've come away with the P790s, which before you go into like the Sim 2 Max or whatever, they're like probably the most
mini rocket launchers, aren't they?
Yeah, they're the most help. They basically allow you to. They basically design them that it's gone wrong if you hit the middle of the face. You can hit anywhere else, that's fine. So neck, toe, whatever, and that'll go off fine. If you hit the middle, you've suddenly.
But iron numbers make no difference, do they? When you boil it down, it actually makes no odds. What you want is to be able to hit spin and launch windows consistently with confidence. And when you stand on the tee and go, "What you're hitting?" I'm hitting 6-iron. Oh, I've got 5-iron in my hand, or it's an irrelevant discussion because you're playing with different equipment. And I think, for example, playing the Belfry on Sunday, what you're hitting, if I'm hitting the same iron, it's not really comparable anyway, because you're playing with a set that's got weaker lofts. You hit the ball further. The whole thing is completely different. You're hitting it higher. You can't really do a fair comparison of, well, if Bruce has got 7, I'm probably going to need to hit 6. It's not quite like that. So,
yeah, but there is like an ego thing. And what was really interesting about my fitting in particular, I think, was that I had a particular miss, which was just a straight up pull every now and again. And the good fitter that Danny was quickly identified that my lie angle was completely incorrect for me.
Yeah,
and I was sometimes hitting heel first, which is causing the blade to flip, and I get that straight pull. And he got me in some. I think I've gone 2.5 down, 2.5 flat, and
Hogan played flat, ball striker.
DJ plays flat. A lot of great players, play flat. So
my ambition is to get my hands lower than Keegan Bradley. That's if I can get there, I've completed it.
You'll struggle without getting your knuckles covered in mud. To
be fair, it's funny actually, because if you could take Sam's kind of club twirl before he hits a shot and the low hands, you'd have the Keegan Bradley aesthetic dialed, wouldn't you? Really?
Yeah, I think so. But if you haven't checked it out, guys, we are conscious we've already taken up far too much of your time, and we don't want this to develop into a pastiche of a best man's performance. So until next time, we'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Watch this.